In this video, I'll demonstrate how you can extend objectiF RPM with your own result types, or in this case, artifact types. Let's say you'd like to record approval criteria for requirements in objectiF RPM. The tool doesn't come with this artifact type out of the box, so our first step will be to extend the structure of the objectiF repository. To get started, we open the stereotype browser. Here are shown all the element types that objectiF RPM can currently manage. Within this structure, we'll create a new artifact. We'll name it acceptance criterion. Now, which properties does an acceptance criterion need? We'll certainly need a description, for which we'll use an RTF text. Next, we need to specify the element type under which acceptance criteria will be created. We want them to be stored in folders, that is, packages, so I'm going to choose package as the owner. OK. Acceptance criteria belong to requirements. Thus, we also need some way to relate acceptance criteria to requirements. In order to make this possible, I'll create a new artifact relationship. I'll name it acceptance criterion requirement rship. As its source, I'll choose the newly created artifact type acceptance criterion. As the target of the relationship, I specify the stereotype requirement. We're now finished extending objectiF RPM's repository with a new artifact type with a relationship to an existing artifact type. Now, if we want to record acceptance criteria for requirements, we'll also need a form. I can create one under Settings. And here there's already a suitable folder called Requirements Management. I'll name the form acceptance criterion and assign the newly created artifact type acceptance criterion. Each artifact type can have several forms associated with it, so here I'll specify that this should be the standard form, which always appears when I open an acceptance criterion with a double click. In the future, I want a command for creating acceptance criteria to show up in the context menu for folders. I'll add it to the group of frequently used commands. For now, I'll skip over specifying its place in the context menu by setting its weight, and I'll leave out its localization properties. The option Create Content is already selected, which means the form will now be generated. Here I still need to determine which properties are to appear in the form. I'll choose the previously defined relationship acceptance criterion requirement rship, which will allow me to connect an acceptance criterion and a requirement. Besides that, I want to be able to see the current state of an acceptance criterion and be given the option to enter a description. The form also needs a name field, of course. When I click OK, the form is generated. The layout is already pretty suitable for its purpose. At any time, I can modify it, change its contents, or edit its properties. I'll now save the initial design. We're still not completely finished, however. I wanted to have the actual state of an acceptance criterion displayed in the form, but we still haven't specified any states, or in other words, defined a state machine for this. I'll make things easy right now by using an already existing state machine. It seems to me that the state machine for requirements fits pretty well with acceptance criteria. So now I'll just tell the state machine that it should also work for acceptance criteria. Now we're done and we can test our extension. So let's go to a folder. I open the context menu and choose Create. And now we see that acceptance criterion shows up in the menu. When I click the menu command, the form we designed is opened. Does it work? I'll give a name and a description. Now I'll set up the relationship between the acceptance criterion and an existing requirement. Here I could also choose more than one requirement, but I'll just choose one. The concrete acceptance criterion for my requirement named feature is now defined. I'll save it. And here it is in the product tree. I'll open it again to see that everything worked. I can further refine my form and its layout by adding further tabs with additional properties or by including special analyses. The best part of all this is that you can work with your own artifacts just like the ones that come with objectiF RPM. You can version them and objectiF RPM will maintain the history. You can also analyze them or include them in documentation. In short, there's no difference between working with your own and the default artifact types.